What's going on, everyone? Coming to y'all with yet another knife review. This one's on another older, now discontinued, and very difficult to find knife from a Chinese manufacturer, this one being Navy. This is their model K-502, and I think it was an interesting knife from a company that didn't last as long as maybe they should have, or maybe they died off when they were supposed to. If you don't know, Navy was a company in China that popped up around the same time as Sanrenmu, Enlin, and Ganzo knives. And while two of those names are super commonly known these days, being Ganzo and Sanrenmu, Enlin's a little bit lesser known, and Navy is essentially unheard of now. But they were an OEM manufacturer for a few brands, just like Sanrenmu and Enlin were. However, the OEM, or the primary OEM company, or can't speak, the company that primarily used Navy as their OEM manufacturer was K-502, which was a company stationed out of Germany. However, they did make all of their knives in China. And this specifically is essentially a smaller version of their Endurance. Now, there actually was an Endurance knife from Navy, like a 1-to-1, same size and everything, in terms of production. However, this is essentially just a smaller version of that, and as such, it tends to mirror that design. So what more than likely happened was Navy made that knife, the Endurance, for K-502, and sold, in addition to letting them sell it under their name, Navy branded a version under their own name and made this smaller version of the same blueprints. And that's what we have here. So, I don't have the packaging for this. I can tell you these originally came in a Navy camo pouch or drawstring bag, and that's pretty much what your packaging was. So let's go ahead and look at the blade. We have a 3-inch blade made out of 440C. Navy's 440C has actually been pretty excellent in my usage of it. I definitely compare it against Ganzo 440C, and in some cases it does outperform Ganzo's 440C. And it was actually a very good performing steel, and this was no different. It is pretty decent in edge holding, great rust resistance, extremely easy to sharpen, coming to a very, very sharp and fine edge. In terms of slicing, this thing does outstandingly. It's a full flat ground drop point style blade with a nice amount of belly and an okay tip. Definitely has a nice point on there. In terms of how it handled cardboard, it was essentially a laser. It just zipped right through there. It's not very thick stock, and with no resistance on that blade whatsoever, and that nice big relief edge, it makes short work of whatever material I'm cutting with it. So that is a positive there. And the blade finishing is decent, albeit not amazing. I mean, if we look here at the grind, not too bad on this side, not too bad on this side, but we can see here the section of the blade tang where our lock meets up with it, because this is essentially a compression lock, kind of. It's actually like the K-502 puzzle lock. But this is the section where the lock would meet up with it when folded, and it's a little rough there. So, finishing's okay, definitely not too bad. We do have some nice jimping top spine of the knife that does an excellent job of giving us traction, as well as on the finger choil, so we can get great control over the knife. If we look inside the thumb hole here, we can see decent finishing inside of there as well, which is actually kind of an impressive note, because many Chinese knives of this era would leave out areas like that, or parts of the knife like that, when they were finishing things, because it didn't consider it to be worthwhile. Navy seemed to actually care a little bit in how this rolled out of the factory, which is nice. So, pretty good blade on here, but what about deployment and lockup? Well, it deploys via a thumb hole, not quite a spider hole, but kind of a oblong, ovangular hole, and it comes out okay. Definitely not lightning quick. I usually need just a slight pop of the wrist, not like a full flick, but just kind of a little bit of action like that to get it to come open. It is riding on, if I can get this to show up, phosphor bronze washers in that pivot point there, and it's reasonably smooth, but it doesn't have a lot of free motion. It's definitely got tension the entire way when you're opening and closing it, so a little bit of wrist action does tend to be necessary. Lockup on this one, side to side, it's tight, but up and down, there is a bit of wiggle up and down. There is a tiny bit of lock rock. And if we look at the locking mechanism, like I said, it's what's known as the puzzle lock from K-502, which was essentially a compression lock, but backwards, which I don't love. I mean, we do have this nice open choil here for disengaging the lock, but it makes it very difficult to do things one-handed, because we had to kind of like reach over like so and flip the knife closed, and we can't really use it like a compression lock where you would normally just pull the lock and flick things back and shut, open and shut. it doesn't really function in the same way. That said, it is nicely jimped for traction, but it does have a little bit of lock rock in the up and down position, which is a bit of a shame, because generally speaking, if a knife has up and down play, I don't tend to carry it. Or at least not very much. I carried this just long enough to get the data for the review, and afterwards it's going to go back in my storage case as kind of a collection piece. The handle is 4 inches long and made out of G10. It is that typical Chinese G10, provides a moderate grip, but it's not in any way super grippy. It's alright, it gets the job done. In terms of ergonomics, if we grip the knife down here, the knife definitely has squared shoulders. And I do mean very squared shoulders, so we feel that in the hand. It doesn't cause hot spots, but it's just not like a melt in your hand kind of design. When we choke up on it, however, the ergonomics do get noticeably better, but you can still feel the blockiness of the handle. So overall, decent, not outstanding. Pocket clip is for right-handed tip-down carry only, and if that clip looks familiar to you, it should, because it is quite literally the same clip that is on your Spyderco Tenacious or Persistence or Ambitious or Resilience, your value line Spydercos. This is the exact same clip. And that's more than likely because with this being made in China as a similar company to Sanrenmu, who did make, by the way, if you don't know, Sanrenmu did make the Tenacious and the Persistence knives, they were more than likely able to reach out and receive clips from those other companies and other parts from those other companies. So, yeah, same exact clip. It has pretty good tension on there. Decent design, nice spoon-built shape. Not so flared up that you had to worry about catching on things. Good clearance, however, for allowing thicker pants. I'm going to go ahead and show you how it carries. Just like so. Honestly, it looks like you have a Spyderco in your pocket. Pretty decent. I like having a bit exposed to grab onto, but many people may not. Unfortunately, however, it is not positionable to any of the other 4 corners. You can't go left-handed with it, and you can't go tip up with it, which is a real shame because we have a nice big lanyard hole here, which could have easily accommodated a 550 cord that is now essentially completely useless. It is a flow-through pillar construction, which makes this very easy to maintenance and clean. However, you may notice that there is no skeletonizing on those stainless steel liners whatsoever. Not that it's a huge deal, the knife only weighs 3.2 ounces, which is very feasible and very reasonable in terms of an EDC blade with a 3-inch blade, or an EDC knife with a 3-inch blade. So I don't have any real complaints about that. Just they could have made it even lighter had they bothered to mill those things out, but it wasn't super common with Chinese knives of this time period, if I'm being honest. And when this retailed for about 13 bucks, you can't really ask too much of it. So, what do I think of the knife? Do I think it's a cool design? Yeah, I actually do think it's a cool design. I do like the way the knife looks. I'm just a little saddened by a few choices made with it. I don't like the puzzle lock in comparison to the compression lock. I feel like we lose a lot of that fun kind of fidget factor that you get with compression lock knives from Spyderco. I don't like that I have up and down blade play. It's just something that does kill a knife for me, generally speaking. I just don't want to carry knives that have lock rock, because when I'm cutting with them, I can feel that blade move as I'm cutting, and it doesn't give me a great amount of confidence in the knife's ability to perform. Even though this is a pretty good performing steel and it does work well, that alone does kill it for me in terms of actually carrying the knife. Not really going to show competitive options for this one because, you can't get it anymore. Sometimes I show them anyways. If I had to show something, Spyderco Persistence. This is just a better knife in every regard. G10 handles, liner lock design, 4-way positionable clip, HCR 13 MOV blade. So maybe not in every regard. The steel isn't quite as good as on the Navy, but overall, fantastic knife for the money that I would pick all day as an EDC blade over the Navy. And if I had to show one more, Takenwo Josar TAC 26. Reviewed this a while back. Pretty solid knife. Also now discontinued, however, and a bit hard to find. So there you go. There's 2 knives that look somewhat similar that I can roll in and claim are competitive options against this now very difficult to find folding knife. It's a cool knife. I like having it. I got it for just kind of the history of it, because Navy knives are pretty forgotten nowadays, and this is a cool design. But if I'm being honest, I don't really recommend it, especially not when people are trying to sell these things for like $50 plus, sometimes upwards of $100. It's just not worth that, guys. If you want to experience a compression type lock in this size, just get you a Paramilitary 3. It really is the better way to go. Does this work as a decent proxy Para 3? Admittedly, not really. It's just not there in terms of the build quality. Navy made some good knives, but this honestly just wasn't one of them. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time, peace and take care. I will see you later.